was a sudden intruder, Jing Wen was alarmed. "Who are you?" he asked. However, the one who was questioning Xuli wasn't actually a man, but an extremely coarsely made stone statue of a man, its body bare but wrapped with cloth, somehow bizarre and at the same time silly. No wonder there was no sound of footsteps when he walked, but an odd thumping sound. No wonder when Pei Ming and Ling Wen saw him, they were both stunned. And no wonder Pei Ming said Ling Wen was talking shit with eyes wide open, because this thing, from head to toe, looked nothing like a female ghost. Pei Ming and Ling Wen were both wrapped all over with a scroll-like material, tightly bound in Jing Wen's grasp, unable to move. Xuli finally snapped out of it. "Me?" However, Jing Wen said, "You are the Crown Prince of Shenle." Xuli was taken aback. "Huh? You actually recognize me? Well, that truly is." But it wasn't strange. When Xuli first ascended, it was an earth-shattering ordeal. He might not have known every heavenly official of the upper court, but every heavenly official of the upper court knew him. Just as it was now, he did not remember whatsoever what Jing Wen looked like, but Jing Wen still remembered him. "Of course, Your Highness's journey of godhood experienced such ups and downs. It would be difficult not to recognize you," he said. Xuli was weirdly touched and replied, I'm honored. But how did you become?" "How did I become like this?" Jing Wen finished for him. Xuli cleared his throat softly and nodded, feeling like his question was a bit impolite. However, Jing Wen used this chance to set off. "Isn't it all thanks to that bitch, Nan Gongjie? After the palace of Jing Wen declined, my spiritual powers became weaker and weaker, and then she'd add insult to injury, coming after me to try and kill me. I had no other choice but to possess the stone statue in order to survive till now." "Compared to you, I'm not that bad," Ling Wen said. "You would personally order me to stay in the palace of Jing Wen until midnight, then turn around and say I shamelessly hang around till late to harass you. Words murder without form. I was a much nicer person, responding with blatant violence." Then he suddenly kicked out and stomped directly on Jing Wen's lower body. To Xuli, this move didn't really look like it'd be powerful, since the stone statue wasn't a flesh body. At most, maybe a couple of the clots on Jing Wen's body would rip. Yet, unexpectedly, Jing Wen let out a tragic wail like his nuts really had been kicked, and he hastily covered his lower body. However, it was too late. That layer of white cloth wrapped around his crotch was kicked off by Ling Wen, and Xuli swiftly saw. Under that white cloth, there was nothing. Nothing meant that, although this was a bare-naked stone statue. Down in his crotch area, what was supposed to be there wasn't there. This was the statue of a eunuch. "So it's a eunuch slave statue," Xuli thought. This sort of stone statue was often seen in the graves of concubines. They were burial effects steeped in the essence of yin, indeed a good choice for possession. However, that a male heavenly official like Jing Wen, who was so small-minded when it came to losing to a woman, would end up as a stone statue of a eunuch slave, it was exceedingly ironic. Ling Wen burst out laughing, and here I was, wondering why you were so anxious and furious. "So this is why. I can't reach that high. Look at yourself. How high can you go? I can't wait to see." He laughed some more. Jing Wen ripped off the rest of his cloth that covered his shame and trampled it, furious like he'd gone mad. He grabbed at Ling Wen's hair, yelling, "Shut up! And how many heavenly officials have you slept with to get to where you are? Don't be so pleased with yourself. Apologize right now." A large chunk of Ling Wen's hair was almost pulled off of his head, but he endured the pain without begging for mercy, never mind apologizing. Pei Ming commented with disgust, "Are you really a civil guard? Such a lack of class and elegance. Even shrews on the streets are better than you." Shilian mentally cried grievances, scared that Jing Wen would strangle the two to death on a whim, and cried a hey in spite of himself, raising his hand. "Calm down, Jing Wen Jinjin. It really doesn't matter if you have the thing or not. Really, it's true." Jing Wen had Ling Wen in one hand and the other covering his groin. He roared, "Lies! How can it not matter? Why don't you get rid of yours and see?" Shilian said earnestly, "It's true, believe me, even though I have the thing. But it's the same as if I don't have one, because I'm that." He once again sacrificed himself, using his own person as proof. Hearing this, Jing Wen seemed to have calmed a bit. "You're what?" he asked. "Just that, you understand," Shilian said. "And even if I have it, I never use it." He coughed. "Actually, whether it be male heavenly officials or lady heavenly officials or other heavenly officials, such things are all superficial. No need to be so preoccupied." Jing Wen cut him off. "If you don't think it matters, why don't you chop it off to prove it?" Shilian was confused. Jing Wen immediately added, "Didn't you say it makes no difference? Hypocrite. You're obviously reluctant in losing the thing, so don't you use that bullshit to cajole me. I'm no young'un who'll cry and repent just because you've given me 2 candies. It's all right if you won't chop yours off. I'll chop off his." He was referring to Pei Ming. Pei Ming was dumbfounded. "What the f***?" he shouted. Now, things were going out of control. Although there were many who wanted to cut off General Pei's thing, there was no way Shilian had wanted Jing Wen to get his way here. He added hastily, "Jing Wen Jinjin, even though it's wrong for Ling Wen to bully you after you've declined, if you've bullied her too, then you're technically even. There's no need to be so extreme." As he spoke, to try and create distractions, he secretly released Roya at the same time, and it slithered behind Jing Wen like a snake. However, Jing Wen countered, "Even, it's not that simple, but now you've reminded me. I have something I need to grill that bitch on. Nangong, did you play a part in the fall of the kingdom of Xuli?" Jing Wen was a civil god worshipped in the kingdom of Xuli, which meant Xuli was his foundation. If the foundation was ruined, naturally he would be assaulted, even suffer a decline. Thus, it was logical for Jing Wen to suspect Ling Wen. However, after he posed the question, Ling Wen kept her lips sealed, refusing to answer. Jing Wen yelled, "Just say it. Was it you causing shit in the dark? I just knew it was you. It must have been you. Otherwise the kingdom wouldn't have fallen so fast. It's all this insidious bitch's fault. That idiot general must have fallen into your hands." Ling Wen hasn't even responded, and you're answering your own questions, Shilian thought. "Wait, what? What general?" On the other side, Ling Wen suddenly started snickering under his breath. If it wasn't because Jing Wen was possessing a statue and couldn't show any expressions, he probably would have gritted his teeth a long time ago. "What are you laughing about?" he asked. Ling Wen lifted his head slightly and said lightly, "Do you know what the consequences are for calling him an idiot to his face?" Jing Wen still hadn't understood when the next moment the scroll binding Ling Wen suddenly ripped apart. From the shreds, a hand emerged from within black sleeves and seized his head. Jing Wen hadn't even had the chance to speak a word when he was subdued. Upon his coarse face, a crack appeared then another, then another. With 3 cracking sounds, his entire body was shattered into pieces. As for Ling Wen, he broke free of his bondage and stood where he was. Streams of black smoke permeated, and a pile of crumbled stones lay at his feet. So it turned out that the ancient kingdom in the legends of the Brigade Immortal was the kingdom of Xuli, and Bai Jing was also a person of Xuli. Xilian was just organizing his thoughts when he heard Pei Ming, who was still tightly bound by the scroll, speak up. Ling Wen, stop. Ling Wen had turned around and was stalking toward him step by step. Remembering Ling Wen telling Pei Ming earlier that he really doesn't like you, Xilian thought, oh no, is he going to kill him? Ling Wen soothed as he walked. Bai Jing, he's already dead. It's all nonsense. Don't listen to him. However, it didn't seem to be very effective, so Ling Wen turned to Pei Ming. Oh Pei, I have no way to stop him, he said. He heard Jing Wen say you're my lover, and he has steeled his mind to kill you. Your Highness, help me. There was no need to ask. Xilian had already swung his sword and slashed through the scroll, binding Pei Ming, and Pei Ming jumped to his feet. The two leapt out of the underground cave, returning to the ground above once more. Looking back into the cave, they saw that Ling Wen had punched through where Pei Ming was just lying. Debris flew. His strength was considerable, even more than when Xilian was punching to scout for them earlier. Xilian tucked Ruoya away, wrapping it on his wrist, and Pei Ming also worked out the kinks in his arms. After having been bound for so long, the swelling on his left arm had gone down somewhat, the size of the bulge now looking like he'd been stung by 50,000 hornets instead of 1 million. What's this f***ing resentment? He started. But before he even finished, Ling Wen had already flashed before him. The two exchanged a blow, and both were pushed a few meters back. Xilian and Pei Ming exchanged a look. Thinking things too troublesome, they both bolted at the same time. Xilian turned his head back and yelled as he ran. Ling Wen, can you try and calm General Bai down again? Ling Wen was hot on their tail. I tried, he shouted back, but he doesn't believe me anymore. It must be because he's hurt that you lied to him, Pei Ming shouted. Ling Wen, Xilian cried, can you change back to your female form? The killing strength would be reduced in a woman's body. No, Ling Wen answered. Why not? He won't let me change back, Ling Wen replied. I get it, Pei Ming said. The bastard is afraid of pressing against a woman's body. What a whim. There was a loud rumble, and a roof came crashing toward them, almost crushing Xilian and Pei Ming. Ling Wen cried, I didn't throw that. Your fault for insulting him. Now he's even more mad. You're both in danger. Xilian hastily cried, Huh? What's it got to do with me? I've said nothing. Ling Wen, can you tell him to count me out, please? Better to count you in. Easier when there's more people to shoulder the burden, Ling Wen yelled. Your Highness, where's little Pei? The Gosha Banyue, your Crimson Rain sword flower. Don't count on them. They've gone the other direction to search for you both, Xilian yelled back. We've already run for over 10 miles. Run first, talk later. He's already absorbed over 1,000 ghosts. It won't be wise to face him head on right now. Yet, unexpectedly, just as the words left his lips, his feet suddenly went light, and his entire body was hoisted up. It wasn't just him. Pei Ming was hoisted up too. When they looked closely, it turned out that the two of them were captured by a large net and were now hanging in the air. Trouble seemed to have flown over from out of nowhere. That net seemed to be made of a special kind of material, and bare hands couldn't rip it apart. Just then, from all around in the woods, at least one or 200 fang-bearing monsters and demons came jumping out, clapping in joy. Caught them, they yelled. How many is this now? This trap is so good. Let's see what we caught. How many heads? It appeared that in a moment of careless panic, they fell into the trap of these low-level little minions. Xilian reached for Feng Xin to slash through the net, but when he found his back empty, he realized that Feng Xin had fallen from his grip earlier when he was suddenly drawn up. Ling Wen had already chased them to the net, and right at his feet was Feng Xin. The mob of little minions hadn't yet realized just what had come, and they were all overjoyed. Another one, they yelled. Ling Wen raised his hands, and 2 balls of black ghost fire were ignited in his palms. He raised his head to face Xilian and Pei Ming. You two, this really isn't up to me, he said. Xilian puffed a breath. Ling Wen, can I ask what would happen if we should be hit by that thing? Last time I used ghost fires this big and hit His Highness Jing, he was injured, but it wasn't too bad. He could still hop around and run. It sounded like the damage wouldn't be that great, so even if they were hit, it wouldn't be too bad. Xilian and Pei Ming both sighed in relief. All right, they said. But just as they said the second all right, the 2 balls of ghost fires in Ling Wen's hands suddenly erupted to 10 times the size, turning into 2 giant pillars of flames, blazing to the skies. Xilian and Pei Ming were speechless. But how things would be after getting hit by flames this size, I can't say, Ling Wen said. Pei Ming roared. Wait, I'm really not your lover though. I know that, but it's useless if we're the only ones who know, Ling Wen exclaimed. That band of monsters and demons was stunned by those 2 balls of flaming ghost fire, and they quickly drew their weapons, indignantly circling them, shouting arrogantly, You bastard! How dare you come steal our kill when you're nothing? Get him! However, pathetic little minions like them posed no threat to the Brigade Immortal, and were nothing more than another wave of fresh nourishment for him. Ling Wen inclined his head slightly, his pupils reflecting the vibrant light of the ghost fires, looking like he was ready to receive the new heads who were ready to sacrifice themselves. Right at that moment, a wild whirlwind blew by. Amidst a series of terrified wails, that mob of little minions was blown to the sky in the blink of an eye. Rather than say they were blown to the sky by wind, it was more like there was a formless, peculiar giant hand that snatched them and tossed them into the sky. The Brigade Immortal seemed to have sensed something and became alarmed, and the blazing ghost fires in Ling Wen's hands also dropped some as he scanned the surrounding area. Xilian arduously looked up, but the dense branches of the trees blocked his sight. The wails of those ghosts also came to an abrupt stop, so he couldn't figure out what exactly had happened above. Pei Ming was also alarmed. Who's come? He asked. Alert and watchful for a while, Xilian suddenly said, Do you all not smell that? What? Pei Ming asked. The scent of flowers, Xilian replied. Pei Ming was confused. There are flowers? Xilian closed his eyes. A moment later, he said with conviction, Yes, it's the scent of flowers. The scent of flowers was mellow, peculiar, fresh, and cool. It came from an unknown place with an unknown name. It was exceedingly light, exceedingly soft, faint, like it wasn't even there. Pei Ming furrowed his brows. I don't smell flowers, but I definitely smell. But before he finished his sentence, he felt something drip onto his face. He wiped with his hand without thinking, and his pupils shrank. It was blood. A couple of drops also fell onto the ghost fires in Ling Wen's hands, and those flames instantly weakened a notch. His expression became even more alarmed, and he whipped his head up. In that instant, falling from the heavens was a torrential rain of blood. Pei Ming was hung higher than Xu Lian, and the sudden battering of this blood deluge drenched him like a bloody, drowned rat, leaving only a pair of eyes that were black and white, round and bulging. The ghost fires in Ling Wen's hands were extinguished completely, and he disappeared under the tree to avoid the same fate as the defenseless Pei Ming. As for Xu Lian, he suddenly felt the net tear, his body dropped, and he plunged downward. He flipped in the air as he fell, and landed steadily just as the bloody rain was about to descend upon him. There was no time to escape, so Xu Lian raised his sleeve, ready to block as much as he could. Then he heard the soft, low rumble of laughter. Suddenly, the air was filled with the mysterious, alluring fragrance of blossoms. Xu Lian lifted his head a little and looked up. He couldn't feel any raindrops hitting his face. Instead, it was something soft and gentle brushing past. He reached out and caught it. Looking down, what flew quietly into the heart of his palm was a small, vibrantly red flower petal. He looked up once more, his breath hitched. He couldn't believe it. The bloody rain that had enveloped the sky had transformed into a fluttering shower of flower petals. There was no need to even guess who had come. Xu Lian curled his fingers and clenched his hand, clutching that flower petal as the name blurted from his lips. Sanlam. He turned around and saw Ling Wen had soundlessly fallen to the ground. That softly laughing, raven black-haired, crimson-robed, tall and slender young man who stood there solitarily could be none other than Huacha. Blossoms fell like dripping blood. Blood danced like petals in the wind. That face was as spirited and handsome as the first time they had met, his eye bright and alive. He languidly sheathed that long and slender silver scimitar back into its scabbard and spoke with a deep voice. Your Highness, I have come back.